But this brings us to a fundamental ethical question. If an animal is unable to reproduce naturally due to its physical traits, should we be intervening to make that possible? Welcome to The Consult Room, the podcast where we explore the evolving world of modern pet care. I'm Dr Paul Manktelow, a UK veterinary surgeon with a deep passion for pet health and welfare. In each episode, I'll be exploring key issues, challenging perspectives, and offering expert insight and practical advice. Because ultimately, my mission is to improve the lives of pets and the people who love them. Today, I want to talk about a topic that's gaining significant attention in the veterinary world and also among dog owners, and that's the rise of canine fertility clinics. Now, you may have seen these businesses mentioned in the media, or perhaps you've even seen them online, but they offer services like artificial insemination, hormone testing, and breeding support. Now, on the surface, these might seem like a natural extension of modern reproductive care. But when we look a little closer, this growth raises some complex questions. So in this episode, I want to explore this topic in a balanced way, as I always try and do. This isn't about pointing fingers or assuming bad intent. It's about understanding a trend, acknowledging that there are some potential benefits, identifying the risks, and navigating those grey areas in between. So what are canine fertility clinics? Now, at a very basic level, these clinics offer services to support breeding. Now, this includes things like progesterone testing to determine the optimal time for mating, artificial insemination, semen collection, and storage. Now, it's important to know that these services are not inherently new. Now, many of them have existed within the veterinary profession for years, but the change is the setting. We are increasingly seeing these services offered outside of traditional veterinary practices, sometimes by individuals who are not veterinary surgeons. Now, that is where the conversation becomes more nuanced. One of the central issues is the regulatory landscape. Now, under the current Veterinary Surgeons Act, not all procedures carried out in fertility clinics are officially classified as acts of veterinary surgery. Now, because of this, some services can legally be performed by non-veterinary professionals. Now, this creates what many describe as a regulatory sort of grey area. Now, while some aspects of reproductive management might be straightforward, others require a deep technical understanding of anatomy, physiology, and the ability to manage complications. And without clear oversight, there is a risk of inconsistent standards and potentially practices that may not prioritize the animal's long-term welfare. So, why is this market growing? Now, to understand this issue properly, we have to look at the drivers. A major factor is market demand. There is a significant demand for certain breeds, particularly those with specific physical characteristics that can make natural reproduction difficult, such as, for example, the brachycephalic breeds. Now, fertility services provide a practical way to facilitate breeding in these dogs. But this brings us to a fundamental ethical question. If an animal is unable to reproduce naturally due to its physical traits, should we be intervening to make that possible? Or does that risk perpetuating the underlying health and welfare issues with those breeds? Now, at this point, I think it's really important that we do not assume that all use of fertility services is inappropriate. There are, in fact, scenarios where these technologies may be used responsibly. So, for example, they can support carefully managed breeding programs that focus on improving genetic health or preserving valuable lines. So, the technology itself is neutral. The impact comes from the intent and the framework around it. The challenge is that without consistent regulation, it becomes difficult for the public to distinguish between responsible, health-focused use and practices that prioritize commercial output over animal welfare. Now, when procedures occur within a veterinary setting, there is a framework of clinical accountability and professional training. When those services move outside of that framework, that oversight is often lost. So looking ahead, regulation will be a key factor in how this sector develops. The ongoing review of the Veterinary Surgeons Act is expected to address these gaps, potentially providing clearer definitions of who can perform certain procedures and under what conditions. But until then, this remains an evolving space. Now, my hope is that as the industry matures, the focus remains on the big question. Are we using these technologies in a way that genuinely supports the long-term health and welfare of our dogs? Now, this is, as always, a really complex area where demand, ethics, and animal welfare intersect. And it's one where we will continue to watch as the regulatory landscape shifts. Thank you for listening to this episode. You'll find all the relevant links to this conversation in the show notes. If you enjoyed it, please follow us and leave a review. It really helps other people discover the podcast. For more insights on topics like this, you can connect with me on social media at Dr Paul the Vet, or check out my website, theconsultroom.co.uk.